Father, we thank you for this day. We ask for your blessings upon our meeting. We ask for your blessings upon your people that guide us as we make decisions for our tribal people and the best interests of our tribes. Protect our emergency personnel, protect our armed forces, and those that are in a hospital struggling with illness, give them healing in their body. And anyone that's lost loved ones, comfort their hearts and their families. Just thank you for this day. Thank you for this meeting. Guide us today.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
With that, we have meetings from the January 18th meeting, minutes from that. Take a quick look at that, please. What's that? Abby, can you hear us? Morning, Abby. Are you there?
Good morning. I can hear you.
I barely heard that. What's going on?
Oh, I can hear you guys.
I'm glad you can hear us. Say something again, please, Abby. We'll see if you're a little louder.
You want me to yell at you?
There you go. That worked.
Say good morning.
That's quick.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the January 18th, 2024 minutes.
Got a motion by James. Second by Bing. Any other discussion? Any more changes? Well, all in favor?
Abstain.
I got 7-4, 2 abstentions. Tom McDonald and Mike Dawson abstaining. We have an agenda. Take a look at the agenda. Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to bring it up at the chairs meeting, but of course the weather took that out this Monday. Tom France, one of our dedicated friends and wildlife advocate, has raised an issue that there's some limitations on interior funding, that he's asking for tribes to send comments to Senator Tester or other folks concerning stopping any federal funding for bison restoration in certain areas. Particularly this one is the project we worked on for many years to restore buffalo in the CMR, Charles M. Russell Refuge in central Montana. We've been working on a long time with the Wildlife Federation and other tribes. So he was wanting to see if we would consider doing a letter. So I'd like to have council consider that this morning.
Thank you, Tom. We got the letter available to everybody, I think. So
Just a comment on that. If I remember right, that's Ryan Zinke that put that forward to block that.
He did.
Yeah, we talked about it, at our meeting in Great Falls this weekend. So, yeah,
thank you.
Ryan Zinke's not our friend when it comes to the buffalo. So there you go.
Thank you, James. Any other council? Len?
This is just an acknowledgement, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So over the weekend, one of our eldest tribal members, Betty Shaw, had a birthday. So just on behalf of their tribal council, I just wanted to publicly acknowledge her birthday and tell her happy birthday. So
Thank you.
I think
Ben.
she's 99.
I think
Yeah,
she's our oldest. Yeah, oldest.
Yeah, I think she's our eldest.
Thank you. Others? Well, I would entertain a motion on the agenda. Thank you, Martin. motion on the agenda and
Second.
second by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous? I guess that will move us into our first, forestry item. Are they even ready?
Committee, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Tom.
is it, I guess I would just finish up with that issue that I brought forward. Is it consensus of council that we authorize a letter to go to Senator Tester?
I make a motion to approve the letter.
Okay.
I think it should just make a motion and
James has moved, approve the letter to at least John Tester,
I would second that.
second by Tom McDonald. All in favor? Danielle? Unanimous. Unanimous. I have a couple little fun things here. Swan Valley Connections is asking for a donation. And, they've done some stuff with us over in the Swan Valley, right? So I just wanted consensus from the council to hand that off to Jennifer for a donation. And she can send them over the application and they can put in through that. That work?
For the donation committee, that's just for tribal members only. You guys would have to approve if it's a different type of donation.
Oh, okay. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that group is very, pro-tribal and they hosted and recognized our work in the Swan and conservation work there, 2 summers ago, I think it was. So yeah, they've been a great partner in resource management. And so I'd make the motion to make a $1,000 donation to the Swan group.
Second by Martin. Motion by Tom to make a donation to the Swan Valley Connections of $1,000. Second by Martin. All in favor?
So would that come out of the tribal donation fund that we use for tribal members?
I don't know that that would be the case. I imagine it would come out of our council fund of some sort.
I would
come out
assume
of
it'd come out of the
special
council
project.
budget.
Council budget, probably. Other thoughts? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. On one other request for a donation I thought you might be interested in is, from NOSL. NOSL? What's that acronym? Save Flathead Lake? There. I thought it was kind of cheeky of them to actually send a request for a donation to us. No, send them a bill. But I'm hoping that we have a consensus in denying that totally. Yeah, Martin.
Send them a bill for all the unpaid dock fees.
Yeah, Carol.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering, trying to think back on how we've handled these things in the past, and I guess. I mean, I don't know if we start having donations like this come in, but I think it might be a good idea to also include a department like natural resources, you know, to put it through them and come in, but. Because I just don't want to be inundated with a bunch of donation requests. And they may have money in their budgets too to provide that kind of contribution.
Thank you, Carol. I do have a few other just announcements, things that came in on email that you probably have all seen. Native American Finance Officers Association's having a conference in April, the 29th to 30th. That's at the Hard Rock in Florida. I think that Carol was looking at something to do with what is it, a mass spectrometer for detecting fentanyl and other drugs. Oh. Yeah, you'd recognize that and handed it off to Patricia. So the MX 908. The MX 908
Yeah,
handheld.
Mr. Chair, yeah, they sent it to Len and I, and I forwarded it directly to Craig, and then Len sent it to everybody, or to Patty and stuff, and I've never even heard of that before. Didn't know a device like that even existed.
I'm wondering if it's, admissible in court. That's, when, I had the opportunity to sit on a committee that we were looking at a device that actually could see if meth was being, made in a house, just from what was coming off the top of the house. And it was a violation of their privacy. So we couldn't even look at it. So I'm wondering about that, but this would be cool. So, go ahead, Carol.
I was thinking more about, we get a lot of complaints of employees using stuff in vehicles, in offices, and that would, I don't know if that's a violation, but to me, that's one way to check. Nobody has to accuse somebody, but you would know that somebody in that office is using those or the government vehicles or whatever. Because, a lot of that's going on and we just don't know it.
We'll have to run it by legal and see what's what with legal. So. Morning, Ann. Hey, Jennifer, I guess is skipped you ahead of forestry. Well, come on up.
Let me know when you're ready for me to start.
You can go ahead, Ann. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We have mental health client advocates at the Tribal Defender's Office, two people that are case managers, but their primary duty is reaching out to newly arrested people in the tribal jail to screen them for mental health needs and to start engaging people in services. They often work with people on substance use issues. They have, along with our two reentry case managers, assisted 38 people to get into inpatient treatment last year in 2023. So it gives you a sense of what they do. We've had this program for about the last 5 years, and we have partnered with Partners for Justice. Partners for Justice is a nonprofit organization that recruits and trains advocates in public defender offices. And these are the mental health client advocates, and they train them to assist public defenders to provide services for clients. We have one person that's been there, she'll be there a year in July. Another person who's been there for 2 years now, just signed on for another year, who I think will stay with us for a while. We have, initially we were funded through the Montana Mental Health Trust. The amount of funding has been reduced by them. And so Partners for Justice has assisted us by looking for funding for us and getting funding. And they have connections with private foundations and trusts, also the time to make those applications. So the permission I'm asking for today is to get permission to accept up to $250,000 that Partners for Justice will find for us. And since we are subrecipients of that funding, then there would be a waiver. I'm told by Contracts and Grants that there's a waiver then of the IDC rate. So we're asking for that permission, to accept those funds. And it would be through the end of this year and, next year also, that it would be up to, they calculate up to 250,000 so that we can continue the mental health client advocates program.
Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ann, for coming in. Always good to see you. Yeah, really supportive of this. The waiver of the IDC could be accounted to the tribe's contribution to the defenders because we underfund them and they run a lot on soft money that goes away in 3 to 5 years. And we have this awesome program called the reentry program that these people are, the people she's speaking of are the case managers for. And that every time we go and talk about our problems with addiction, people come out of incarceration, we keep talking about these programs that we should form and make, like, aftercare and case management and holistic wraparound services and supportive housing, supportive living. And these are all the things that the offender's office is either doing or has a hand in or has created. And instead of reinventing the wheel, we should really look at them as a model, which they truly are a great model to look at. Ann's won awards, the program's won awards, and give them the funding that they need. Reentry is not going to be here forever. I don't know what the time frame on that is, but we definitely need to duplicate and replicate these services, and especially the supportive housing. We need a Morning Star in every community. And I know people don't always look at that model as the best, but harm reduction is critical. If you look at the conditions outside the last few weeks, we'd much rather have someone, our members inside, and whether or not they be doing what they do because of mental health or addiction, at least they're inside and sheltered and have their basic needs met. And that's what Ann and her crew do. I hope we can get an orientation with you for the new council and a refresher for all of us to truly know what you guys do. So I jumped on a soapbox. My sister doesn't even work there anymore, so there's anything paternalistic that you could say. So thank you, Ann. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'd make the motion.
Thank you, Martin. Martin's making the motion to waive the IDC and accept up to $250,000. Carol and then James.
I'm just reluctant on waiving the IDC. I know it's a good program. I know all of that, but also that reduces our total in IDC. So I'm just concerned about that.
Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I just want to buttress the comments, support the comments. I'm looking at their website as we're speaking. It's a national organization, and I think we're the only tribe that's working with them.
We are.
So a pretty good organization. If you haven't looked at their website, it's partnersforjustice.org. Pretty good, a comprehensive website. I've had a few clients that I've worked with at Tribal Health that have been benefited from this program, and it's been great. I mean, helping them with, phone, helping them with, bail, those kind of things that are just some of the folks that I work with, had worked with, and still work with. They just didn't have that, that little bit of help that went a long ways for them. And it goes back to the term criminalization of poverty. The person gets stopped, they impound their car, they take their phone, et cetera, and all of the things they have to do in the criminal justice system, but it just adds one more burden and cost, and then you're racking up the cost of getting a car out, getting a new phone, those kind of things. So
Partners for Justice has assisted us with some of those costs also, even with some money for those individuals. So it's been a very nice partnership with us.
yeah.
They provided us training every year. And also just to add to that, we are seeing, because we are starting to see more drug charges, that's starting to happen now. And we're seeing those people incarcerated and really trying to engage them as soon as they're incarcerated or whenever they're ready to speak to our mental health client advocates, who, by the way, it's 7 days a week. They're reaching out to people at the jail. So we're trying to meet that increasing need. It's started. And we're finding it's both substance use and mental health issues 9 times out of 10.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, James. We have a motion by Martin, and Thomas said he'd second that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sounds wonderful. Steve, you're up. Come on up, Lyndon.
The other button, Steve. There you
No,
go.
now I'm talk, okay. I'm technically challenged, amongst other things. But I just want to take this opportunity to introduce a new manager for the forestry. Went through the process, and we now have a program manager for our forest development program. And I'd just like to introduce him to the tribal council so you know who to go to in the future. I'm going to turn it over to my new program manager, Lyndon Plant.
Hey, good morning. Appreciate being here. Appreciate the opportunity. Like Steve was saying, a new program manager starting Monday. It's a big program. I'm sure there's a lot to learn, but I'm willing to learn and willing to grow into position. So I just appreciate the opportunity, and I'll do what I can to continue the program. So that's where we're at. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, Lyndon.
Yeah,
Good to
thank
see
you.
that. Thank you, Steve. And so who are we talking?
So right now, I guess we'll turn it back over to Pat and Josiah, and they'll get the business underhand that we'd like to get going here. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. And is Pat available or Josiah?
Yep, that's me. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can.
Awesome. So I'm Josiah Pettit. This is my first time presenting to the council. And I'm here today to request the council's permission to approve the resolution to advertise the Jetty South logging unit timber sale. Pat is here with me. He's just off camera. So I guess I'll just go through these pages. Can everybody see the other screen? The pages. Okay, so for the Jetty S logging unit, we are estimating about 12,740 tons of Douglas fir and 2,294 tons of ponderosa pine. Our bid rates are set at $13 per ton for Douglas fir and $8 per ton for ponderosa pine. So we are going to set this to be sold on February 14th. I know it says February 7th on the advertisement sheet, but we decided to give an extra week because February 7th was the last day for public review. So we decided to give it a little more time there. This will be tribal member preference sale, as always. Let's see. All right, so here is our logging unit map. Majority of this sale will be individual tree selection, uneven age treatments. Total acres of the sale that will be logged are 361 acres. And the rest of that logging unit will be held in reserve at this time. Are there any questions about this sale map, the logging units?
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, you have weed spraying included in this, right?
Yes, we do.
How do you do that? Does forestry actually do the weed spraying?
Go ahead, Pat.
So, we don't actually do it ourselves. We'll either rely on lands to do it or we put them out for contract. I think that's probably where we're going to go with this one. I know for some of our past sales, coming up this spring, we're going to be looking into doing that. So, for some of our older logging units, but yeah, so we either have lands do it or we just contracted it out.
Okay, the reason why I brought this up is because somebody told me to beware of weed spraying because it doesn't get done. And so I
Right.
don't know if it was lands or forestry, but I don't know how you verify that it gets done, but I would like to have somebody at least monitor that or report that, yeah, I actually seen it and it was done and.
Yeah.
Because that really concerns me. We put these kind of things in our contracts and if somebody's maintaining it's not getting done, then it's a real concern. So, thank you.
Yeah. And I definitely understand that. I appreciate that comment. I know it does seem like it's kind of fallen to the wayside a bit as far as who's tracking it, who's doing what, but I'll definitely do my best to make sure that we're more transparent about what we're getting done and all that. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, you sound sincere, so I really do appreciate.
yep. You're welcome.
Other questions or discussion? Is that basic information, Josiah?
Yes, this is the basic information.
Go to the executive.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Was this project presented to the Kootenai elders?
Yes, this was presented to the Kootenai Culture Committee several times. Each time we had no issues with any of the members. And we've taken them out on at least 3 field trips that I know of. And they were all pretty open to what we were planning to do here.
Okay, so just looking at the location of the units, are we going to be hauling out of the big arm side or are we going to be going over the top and coming off on 93?
Yeah, the haul route will be going through the 2000 road to Highway 93 on the east side. There's no access out toward the big arm side. So it all has to come out that way.
All right, okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I would entertain a motion for approving the Jetty S logging unit sale. Motion by Bing. Second by Martin. Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Josiah and Pat and Steve.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Mr. Chair, congratulations, Lyndon.
Yeah, congratulations. Good luck.
You got something, Martin? Okay. Yeah, Jennifer.
Sadie is up. She's online.
Cool. Good morning, Sadie.
Good morning.
You're up. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Hasquext Pesia. This morning, I'm here to seek approval and a resolution to proceed with the Montana Indian Language Program grant. We've applied for this grant since it's become available so it's been available for a few years now. We've been successful in receiving it each year. Typically, it's been the tribe can apply for it, and then both culture committees can kind of split those funds if they choose to do so. this year I reached out to Vernon to see if he was interested in doing that, and he didn't want to. He was going to go ahead and pass this year. I believe he did so last year as well. And so what we've agreed to do is that the SQCC would go ahead and apply for this grant and use the funds this year, and then the next grant cycle, KCC would apply and use the funds the next cycle. So we didn't have to split it because it's not a whole lot of money. And so in order to do what we would like to do and make the impact we'd like to impact, it's best, I think, if we go that route. So we're back again this year to proceed and getting your blessing to move forward with this grant.
Yeah, thank you, Sadie. Do we actually know how much it will be yet, or have they divided that up?
They haven't quite give us those numbers yet. Usually it's in a 2-year cycle. And so I believe last year we received 44,000. That's what we had to work with, was 44,000. So, and really OPI has told us it depends on what the other tribes do. There are some changes in the grant. So depending on what they do and if they decide to apply, that number could change. So it could increase, but it definitely won't decrease. And so we're looking at the 44 biannually and possibly 88, depending on what other tribes decide to do. So we don't quite have those numbers yet, but also you'll notice at the very top on page 29, Jen, if you want to go back to 29, please. To the cover letter, when we first got notice of this grant, also there's a lot of change in OPI. So change in hands there, folks are moving around. But we had a very short time frame to kind of work with this and decide what we could do with a short amount of time, who we could reach out to, and if this was something that we could take on with our new staff as well. So we came up on the deadline, and first of the year stuff kind of happened. So we weren't able to get in to see you guys before we actually applied. So I reached out to Charlene in contracts and grants and asked, what would you like me to do with this situation? And she said, well, others have in the past also just applied. Once you get approval, then come into council for the resolution. So that's what we did. We went ahead and applied. And so that's what we're here for today, is to move forward on the resolution and get your blessing to continue with the grant.
Tom, you have a question?
No, I would make the motion to approve the resolution for the Montana.
Motion by Tom to approve the resolution to apply for the Montana language grant, and second by Martin. Other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Sadie.
Red lunch, Pesia, and I look forward to when this grant wraps up to come in and give you all a showcase, or invite you to our showcase. And I would definitely love to see all of your faces at our next elders meeting, first Wednesday. We get started around 9 o'clock, so the elders would always love to see you all there. So please join us.
Thank you. We're a good bit ahead of schedule. Is Whisper ready, or should? Oh, Whisper's here. Come on up, Whisper.
Get my reading glasses out. Esquex Pesia. Thank you very much. I have copies of the non-member regulations if anybody would like a copy as we're going. Otherwise, I think we highlighted the changes in the document pretty well, but I'm willing to bring these around if anybody would like them.
Okay, today I'm here to discuss the 44D tribal member regulations. You have already approved the non-member regulations, and those have gone through the Flathead Reservation Fish and Wildlife Board, as well as the Fish, Wildlife and Parks Commission, and are going out to the printer as we speak. We finalized the final proof of that. So these will be the tribal member regulations, slightly differing in the ones that Carrie brought in last week. Those are more specific to individual species. These are more specific or general to recreation and fishing overall. I have been in contact with legal. Lindsay G. and John Carter have been helpful with the TAPO updates that you all approved at the middle of the month, maybe a couple weeks ago. And Lindsay's done a really great job of helping us turning the TAPO into the rulemaking process for our regulations so that we have that process well established and in a new document that we're creating for ourselves. One of the things when it comes to these annual regulations is the council has 4 options when we bring forth proposed regulations that are coming from the professionals in our division. You can let us know that we're good to go and tell us to go forward with the regulation as written, which is prepare the proposed regulation for the public comment. You could delay or withdraw the recommendation in whole or in part. You can amend the recommendation, or you can recommend a substitution or additional regulation. I believe the last time we went through these, we did them individually so that council could discuss and decide on each regulation proposal individually. I'm going to start on page 35. Oops. Some of the proposals that we have today are housekeeping things. They are things in the regulations that were either some needed things in the general information in the back, or as this table is just updates to who is no longer selling permits. We have taken out those different businesses that have declined to sell any longer. The Fish, Wildlife, and Parks regulatory people who send us the machines have been resistant to selling, adding any additional businesses. So I believe we looked at Quicksilver, and then they were reluctant because they didn't feel their staff could sit and sell permits with so much quick turnaround of like people coming in the convenience store. So they were not interested in continuing to, or in selling. We talked about 3 Chiefs, but we did not, they would not provide us with another machine. I think that there's quite a few locations that are selling. We don't see this is not for members anyway, but it is listed in the member regulations. We don't see there being an issue with lack of options for people to purchase. So I don't know if you need to vote on that one. It's just a change that will be going. Tom, do you have any opinion on that? If it's just a format thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Chair, yeah, Whisper, you're still selling them in Polson?
We're still selling it at Walmart and at
in
the
your
office.
in your office?
Yes.
At the Bison Range?
Not the Bison Range. They had a paper one, but they were not selling. We couldn't get that next machine. I'm not sure what the hang up with the state is. They're saying that they don't have enough machines or they can't provide anymore. We recently received a new updated one, so I'm not sure if it's just a capacity issue on their end.
I know in the past, the internet capacity at the Bison Range was an issue also. But,
We're starting to get that sorted out a little bit.
okay, thank you.
Lynn?
Are people able to purchase them online on their phone?
You can purchase them online. I'm not sure if you can go through the website on your phone, but I'll double check with Ginger. She's the one who's generally directing people how to do that. You can purchase them online. It's not an app, it's a website. So I would think that you should be able to go through it on your phone. I don't know if there's glitches.
Okay, I'm just kind of wondering if we need to create an app to do that. There's a lot of people out there that just don't know this information or where to get a permit. you know, and if they're able to access them on their phone, because 9 out of 10 people have a phone, you know. So that's something you can look into, Whisper, and see what it's gonna take to create an app so we can get that out there and,
Yeah, we'll have to talk with the the state of Montana and see where they're at with app creation for this type of thing, because we interface through their system. They would have to be part of that, and it is kind of the way of the world, so maybe that is something that we can talk about.
okay, thank you.
Nah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the whole goal with the automatic licensing system with the state of Montana was to make it available for individuals if they had internet access. So if you have internet access, you should be able to purchase the licensing through their system. And that's electronic pay. The limitations also on the vendors is that they have to post a bond, used to be able to sell licenses. And with this kind of a scenario, it's automatic. And so it also requires their banking and some other logistics for a vendor to be able to sell them, because they can acquire a lot of debt, and especially during hunting season where they're selling a lot of licenses, and that was always an issue back when we were standalone. We wouldn't bond our vendors very well, or didn't bond them. But with the automatic licensing system, they'd pull the money right out of the bank from the vendor once the sale every day occurred, and it was just automatic. So our revenue when we went and joined the automatic licensing system with the state went up nearly 90%, because we weren't losing revenue anymore. Thank you.
Looks like the closest place I got to get one is in Plains, so nothing else on the west side. Go ahead, Martin.
Isn't this something that the website is supposed to provide, an online portal to what you guys are doing? Isn't that supposed to be our catch-all? And if you want a permit, if you want to apply for something, you go through this. So has anyone talked to you about that?
We've talked to Gecko, the website designer, and they kind of let us know that we'd have to set up a Venmo for pay receipt. We wouldn't be able to directly sell things off the new website platform, because we had the bison range, we were talking about the gift shop and being able to sell there. There was this whole level of there couldn't be a direct thing. We'd have to set up a Venmo. And I don't know if finance could do that or what, but it wasn't as streamlined as we, I guess, envisioned that something like that would be. I think we were also looking at selling things for Blue Bay, like boat slips, or paying for the lakefront building, but it wasn't quite interfaced in the way that it was a smooth thing. It wasn't like an ACH transfer. It was a Venmo and then something. So I don't think that website situation is working for that. Okay. I'm gonna say we don't have to vote on this one because I think it's just a format. But the next one, which is hunting and trapping regulations for members, we are adding the American bullfrog provision as we did to the non-member regulations. We kind of want to encourage people to take bullfrogs, and we want to remind them not to be moving them around. So we are establishing that bullfrog hunting regulation, and that is an addition under general hunting regulations.
We need to vote on each one of these issues, or have a consensus as we approach each one?
You're looking for the ability to seek public comment on these?
Yep, we would
Member
throw
comment?
with this one out for
Okay,
public
so
comment.
it's all draft.
We can have a consensus.
Yep, we just move through it with the consensus.
For the whole document?
I think so.
Okay, then I will just present them and we will roll on through, and you guys are gonna be real early today.
We'll have questions along the way.
Yes.
Do you have
I
any
will-
recipes for those frog legs?
No, but the folks that were working them this summer may. So Wildlife had received funding for aquatic invasive species staff that they co-shared with the state of Montana. And we had those crews working all night for the last 2 summers, gigging and locating bullfrogs in the valley, trying to do an eradication project. So I think those folks might have been trying to eat them just to see. I don't know if they were as tasty as maybe they had hoped for a hunting effort, but there are people here that want to eat them. As long as they're not killing western boreal toads, we'll be okay with it.
My grandpa Fred said in France in the war, that's what they had, a lot of frog legs. French delicacy. So just find a bunch of Frenchmen and they'll be happy.
Sounds good. Oh, whoops, 36. So the next regulation change under hunting and trapping is another format change. And what we're proposing here, this one, I'm not sure if it needs to go out to the public. We could talk about this one. We have the handbook that you've all received, but we also have individual regulations based on species. So we are proposing to have basic information in the 44D workbook that you have, and then referring people to those individual tribal hunter pamphlets that come out every time, year, so that we're not missing anything with redundancy in the information, and that we really push people to look at those individual regulations when they're out hunting and recreating. So that would pertain to the Ferry Basin Wildlife Management Unit. We are asking to add we're just planning to add the language to see the annual Ferry Basin elk harvest seasons and regulation booklet. It's available online and in our office for current season permitting and general Ferry Basin hunting regulations. I added here where I struck out the rest of the section. I wrote that we're going to replace section C through I with that sentence. I just wrote it here as an example of how that will be, and that will be the same for the next few that we're going to go through. Do you have any heartburn or issues with us removing this out of that booklet and really directing people toward the one that is handed out with their permits?
Any thoughts about that? So each booklet will be reviewed as well, right?
Yes, you've already seen the initial version, and that is going out for public comment next week. We're having a meeting after this to finalize our communication plan. And should there be any issue and confusion and challenges, we can always put it back in this booklet in the future, but we're going to try it this way.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think Whisper in the past, we were just, those things that don't change, that are steadfast for regulations that wouldn't be specific to current population estimates or issues on the ground. Those are the kind of things we'd like to put in the booklet, and I think you probably got that pretty well covered. So that was the only comment I would have.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Later in this section, under what will become letter C, is we are asking that hunters must have a bull, either sex tag, for the Ferry Basin WMU if they take a branched antler bull or bull with antlers greater than 8 inches. So we're just requiring that they have their tag on them when they're out hunting. A lot of these things are in relation to issues we've had with conservation and people not having things on them or doing things around the regulations. And it is also recommended to have each harvested elk and big game animal tested for chronic wasting disease before consumption. Again, we're pushing that really hard and trying to get those samples in our office. And then we will have those guidelines within the general information document. Next, we've got the bighorn sheep hunting and the little money.
Just one quick question on the now C that was J. It's not in what you changed, but on the first line, you say a juvenile male elk that has not developed antlers less than 8 inches, or that is a strange use of the negative there.
Does not develop antlers less than.
You're talking about male elk that has antlers that are less than 8 inches, right?
Right. So we don't want people shooting them thinking that they're mistaking a cow.
So elk that has developed antlers less than 8 inches. I think the knot needs to come out of that.
Okay, I will look that one back over and figure out where we've got some double negatives here. Regulations, hunting. Okay. Bighorn sheep will be doing the same as we will be replacing section C through G and I through J with the general regulations that we hand out with each permit. Moose hunting, replacing section A, which for some reason I didn't type in here, is a moose hunting, hunting moose within the Flathead Reservation and on open and unclaimed lands off the reservation is by permit only and are restricted by those regulations, annual harvest quotas and special annual regulations set by council, and those will be in those member regulations. It looks like initially, it said tribal members who engage, it's just a revision of the language to just make it worded different. It's saying the same thing. It's on page 5 in the booklet that we handed out. It just kind of reworded it. Again, not changing the intent, just changing the language. That's going to happen also in section 7 under bird hunting, page 38. We've got the current language and we're proposing to replace it with waterfowl or any other migratory game bird may not be hunted by the aid of baiting or on or over any baited area where you know or reasonably should know that the area is or has been baited. This language is reconciling it with how it's written in the handout regulation. So it was just taking how things were written so the language is the same with the handout and the 44D workbook. Next is decontaminate waders and decoys before transporting gear to a new wetland area. Be sure to clean all debris and dry equipment to prevent the spread of AIS. Later on in the document, we are taking out the whirling disease specific section because it is kind of now just another AIS on the reservation. It's not a big scary thing as it was in the past. And we've melded the language from whirling disease into our whole over AIS section. So some of those things are pulled out of the whirling disease and put into specific regulations that could spread whirling disease and other types of AIS. IF bison hunting, again, just putting those regulations into the individual regulations. We do have a clarification on page 38. Non-tribal members may assist a tribal member with the field dressing, retrieval, and transportation of a downed bison to the member's hunting vehicle, but may not assist or accompany that member with any aspect of the pursuit or harvest. Non-tribal members may only help with the transport of downed bison while they are accompanied in the accompaniment of the permitted tribal member. Therefore, a tribal member cannot send a downed bison back to the Flathead Reservation with a non-member if the tribal member remains in Yellowstone to hunt. We had that situation last year where a member was harvesting a lot of bison and trying to send them back to the reservation with non-members. And so we're just clarifying that in these regulations. As it was previously stated, non-members weren't allowed to just drive bison back to the reservation. They wouldn't have a permit. It would just be a challenge. There are no known wild populations of bison within the reservation. Privately owned bison at large are not legal take within the boundaries of the reservation unless coordinated with the owner. That is in relation to the bison that were down in, along the river in the Ferry Basin area over Christmas. Somebody's private bison were roaming and tribal members were saying, well, we're gonna go hunt them and we're gonna shoot them. And we didn't have a regulation that made that enforceable if they were to get a ticket. We did want to make sure that we weren't writing it so that if a private herd who allows people to come hunt on their property would not be able to do so because it's their private stock, it's their land. They should still be able to do that. We're trying to word this so that we're not prohibiting any bison from being shot here, especially private owned livestock bison. But if they're roaming tribal land, they're not free roaming bison. Any questions on that one?
I mean, they're not feral bison.
They're
Just-
feral. It's not wild.
Just kidding. Bad joke.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question is non-members hunting on private land within the reservation, and how humane are we hunting these animals? Is there anything to make sure they are doing it, even though I don't agree with the non-members hunting on tribal land for bison, to where it's humane, because these are big animals, and if we're doing what I've seen advertised, and hunting them however we want, I don't think that's fair, I guess.
I think that, I mean, I know that there's people on the reservation who've raised bison for years and sold them with the opportunity for somebody to come shoot them in their field, and then whether the rancher field dresses them or the individual is able to do that, I'm not sure the logistics of that part. But overall, it's like shooting a cow in a field, I guess I would say, where they're not wild, they're not you're not pursuing them or giving fair chase, you're just shooting a livestock in a field. And so there's an aspect to that that is a little off-putting. They have to be killed some way. So the other option for bison is that you load it into a truck and take it to a slaughterhouse and they bolt it in the head and then they process it there. When we think about the ones from the Bison Range Conservation Herd, we kind of think about what's more, we haven't shot them out there because most people are taking them to their herds or whatever. But to load a bison up into a truck may be more stressful and less humane than just shooting it in a field. So it's kind of it's a weird thing where we're shooting livestock technically, but as long as they're not like tied to a fence or something weird or harassed, I think it's still in the realm of humane take. It's just kind of odd because it's livestock.
Go ahead, Len.
So did the tribes officially designate buffalo as livestock? Or are we just going along with what the state is saying? I mean, because if we haven't, and these buffalo happen to come up on tribal land, I would think they're fair game.
But I think as far as the livestock commission, like there is some ownership
Yeah,
of them to
but does the
people.
livestock commission have any authority on tribal trust property? That's, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, I don't want to debate that now, but I just wanted to saying that issue is out there. I mean, if we have not designated buffalo as livestock, they're wild game.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it's a great question. The tragedy of the way buffalo have been treated in America goes way back, and so it's the federal government that does not recognize buffalo as wildlife, and it's the federal government because of that don't recognize them as a threatened and dangerous species in Yellowstone because they think of them as a domesticated animal. So it's really unique status for them, unfortunate status for them. So I think when someone has a title to an animal, it's I think it's recognized by the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Department of Interior. So there's conflicting I guess, law potentially, because, yeah, you're right, Glenn. I mean, if the tribes think they're wildlife, then we think they're wildlife. But the federal law, on top of the state law, would recognize them as being owned, that they're a domesticated animal, that it's no longer a wild game animal. So the very narrow separation between how we would think of them in the federal landscape and the state landscape is if they are wild, if they've never been fenced in, if they've never been contained, then they are considered wildlife under certain parameters under the federal government and even the state of Montana. So that's the kicker. I have one question that when we talk about this potential conflict of harvesting in the Yellowstone area, Whisper, Ted Turner does have buffalo that frequent the western edge of the Yellowstone hunt area. And there has been a couple of times where we've had tribal members looking at those buffalo to harvest those. And he has them on, they're on Forest Service leased land over there in the Big Hole country. So I don't know if that's something that needs to be fixed or not, but people usually call ahead of time. You know, everybody knows where you hunt. But every now and then someone's wandering around looking for moose or some other species when they're down there, and they may run into a buffalo outside of the Hebgen Basin on the West Yellowstone side if they go over the mountains there and run into those buffalo. Just something to think about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Tom. Go ahead, Whisper.
Next, we're going to the fishing regulations, and this is another reconciliation and actually a regulation that you all approved previously. It just didn't get into the regulations in this format, and that is no boats or flotation devices on 9 pipes or Pablo, and adding safe harbor marsh to that language. That's just a cleanup deal. And then the special management use unit regulations, this is similar to the non-member regulations that we proposed, taking away the catch and release and changing the numbers of fish that can be taken. For the Jocko River drainage, previously an angler may keep 2 brown or 2 rainbow trout or 1 of each per day with only 1 fish over 14. We are saying that brown and rainbow trout, you can have 5 in combination with only 1 that may be longer than 14 inches. So it sort of says you can't just have 2 brown and 2 rainbow. You can have either species up to 5. Next is the Flathead River, where trout fishing is restricted to catch and release fishing for SKQ Dam, from SKQ Dam to the Clark Fork River. We are establishing the brown and rainbow trout can be 5 in any combination with only 1 longer than 14 inches, and catch and release fishing only for cutthroat trout.
Go ahead, Lynn.
In regards to permit violations, do we keep track of the tickets that are issued and follow up at court? I mean, how many of them were actually processed through the court system and fined?
The game wardens do keep track of that. They're trying to finish out like their citations, and they do keep track of where they are. Dan keeps those as a running number.
Yeah, I remember some time ago, when Chip was still with us, rest in peace, Chip, but Chip used to provide us a quarterly report on those, on the projects and things that the game wardens were working on, and that was part of his report, was some of the citations that were issued out and some of the things. If we can start doing that again, I think that would be really beneficial to the council.
Sounds good. I will coordinate that with Chief McClure. Next, we're moving to recreation regulations for members. We are asking to add, we have discharging any firearm in a negligent manner or in any designated campground was the previous language. We're asking to add trailhead, boat launch and parking lot to that regulation, just so that we don't have people making people unsafe in those additional locations. Another reconciliation was allowing pets or livestock to run unattended. Art Sokol had brought this one up, that the wildlife and fisheries call their properties different things. And so to add the word "and conservation" encompasses the wildlife properties as well as the conservation properties. This one came up last year,
Got
section.
a question, Whisper.
What?
With the firearms, who decides what's negligent?
Well, I know there's been people that have pulled guns on people and been shooting them. I've been at McDonald Lake where we're hanging out and somebody jumps out and starts shooting guns out. We pack up and head out. So I think waving them around at people and shooting them at things.
All I'm getting at is having that language in there leads to an argument. Could we just have discharging any firearms? Discharging any firearms in these places is prohibited without them having to argue about whether it's negligent or not.
I'm being really safe right now. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying and we can make that correction. Thank you. The Ferry Basin Wildlife Management Unit is closed to, previously it just said antler collecting, from January 1st through April 30th. Last year, we had a head confiscated and that was returned because we didn't also say the head or the horns. It wasn't an antler, it was a bighorn sheep head, where somebody was in that area walking around, potentially disturbing the elk on their winter grounds while it was closed to that activity. So we're asking to add the words head and horn to cover all the bases of what the intent was of that closure. We will also be asking to add the Lick Cave back closure to the member regulations as well as the non-members as we did previously. Again, that's a disease pathogen spread issue. White nose syndrome is affecting bats and getting closer to us. So we just want people to be really aware and to clean off if they are going to go into those caves. Bats are still declining across the West. Next, we've got off-road motor vehicle use and the electric bikes. A motor vehicle or off-highway vehicle may not be operated below the high water mark in rivers, streams, and lakes on tribal land, even if a road is present. The only exceptions to this regulation are as follows. Man-made bodies of water where established roads are present, such as St. Mary's Lake, Lone Pine Reservoir, Mission Dam, and Lower Crow. And if you are launching a boat in the Flathead River, you may temporarily travel below the high water mark as established boat launches for the sole purpose of unloading and loading your vessel. The intent was to not have people driving around and parking or camping right next below the high water mark in the river or on other areas. We touched base with shoreline protection and safety of dams to ask if what they thought about this regulation. They agreed with it, and except for administrative needs, which safety of dams would have, they would be able to drive down to their growlers and clean those out. But they did agree with not having vehicles just parked and sitting below the high water mark.
Go ahead, Len.
Just some grammar correction, Lone Pine is spelled wrong.
Is it one word? Oh, loan. Got it, thanks.
Therefore, loan, huh?
Can borrow some frogs from over there.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Whisper, when we talk about those man-made reservoirs, I know McDonald Lake, that's a situation there where people will back down into the zone that's below the high water mark to launch, to unload their boats. Is the intention now that would be illegal?
I think, and I can, established words are present. I think that we could also add that as we did in the Flathead River, that if you're unloading a boat due to low water, you can, as long as it's not mushy and they're not getting stuck up to their axles, you know, people do sometimes.
It's typically right there where people will launch a boat. It's one, but it's like a boat launch area and it's real hardened surface and you can drive right down to the water's edge at low pool to pull your canoe out or whatever.
Okay. We can add that to keep that access for people. Okay, operating a snowmobile with the possession of a firearm, adding bows or crossbows with exceptions detailed in the wild bison hunting regulation. That was just to expand the types of guns or firearms or means of take that was not intended to be accessible by snowmobile. Further down on page 40, another correction in the current regulations. It says that everyone has to pay to get into the bison range. And so we're just correcting that, especially in the tribal member regulations, to say that tribal members, CSKT tribal members, do not pay a fee for entry to the bison range. But that we'd like you to stop and check in so that in case of an emergency, we kind of have an idea of how many people are out on the range on any given day. Another thing that's come up recently, last year, I believe Wildland Recreation received at least 2 requests to intern ashes on tribal recreation areas. We referenced the lands ordinance that says that that is not acceptable and have I wrote an email up to people about, you know, it's not something that we allow. It makes that area become something different when you start to put people's remains there, and per the land ordinance, it's not acceptable. So we're just throwing that into the culture and religion section of the regulation so that people can read it and maybe see it. Lots of people probably aren't taking the lands ordinance and reading it in its entirety, but at least they could see it here and we could spearhead some of that or to deter some of that. We did not get it into the non-member regulations, but it has been non-members that have called occasionally who had a member spouse or something to that effect. So we'll probably ask to put that in the non-member regs next year. In the lands ordinance, I think it says you can bring the request to tribal council for special consideration. So we just reiterated that language. For AIS, we're just kind of saying that acknowledging we do have some aquatic invasive species here, but we really don't have any zebra or quagga mussels. So just changing that language, adding more of the whirling disease language into this section, reminding people to clean their waders. And then to remind people not to dispose of aquatic animals such as aquarium pets into natural water bodies, and just reminding them if it survives, it becomes an invasive species. And then the last one is disposing, let me just double check. No, it's not the last one. Disposing of waste properly. We participated in the Flathead Waters cleanup last year. And that was a fun event and we got a lot of people out cleaning. We now have river bags available at different locations for people to collect garbage and along the river. Those will have our logo on them starting this year. People have been using them. When we were having our planning meeting, the organizers were asking about picking up human waste in dog bags along the river and disposing of that. I said, I don't think we should be touching human waste and don't do that because not only does the member of the public pick that up, but then you're bringing it to a weigh station activity where somebody else is touching it, which made me think about we better maybe put something about that in our regulations. The whole term cat hole became something I became aware of, which is a tiny little hole you dig for when there's not facilities available. So we just added some language to try to get people to be responsible with their human waste with people recreating on the river specifically. And then lastly, fireworks. So we talked to fire control and we talked to Tony Nkashola. He thought there was language about not discharging fireworks in some of our tribal campgrounds, especially in the wilderness area. We've got some folks looking. They haven't found the language yet, so it kind of came late in my little presentation here. But we wanted to add prohibitions on discharging pyrotechnics and fireworks on any tribal recreation areas, including the wilderness area, tribal forest area, tribal parks, or any tribal recreation areas such as campgrounds, lakes, boat launches, day use areas, etc., or in the vicinity of another person, group of people, or any animal in a manner likely to be expose them to the risk of injury. Todd's the one who looked this one up. He looked at different regulations between state and feds to see how they're addressing fireworks, and this was the final proposal that he brought forward. And that is it. Yes.
Go ahead, Tom.
Whisper, I know that the one area that was for fireworks for tribal members was a concern with Blue Bay Campground, and so it was prohibited there except for on the day use area during 4th of July. Is that still gonna be allowed under this?
We took that one off last year, I believe. After the Blue Bay,
After the fire?
yeah, after the fire and the aftermath of evacuating the area, it just became more of a concern, and people are kind of not responsible for fireworks and their kids, and so we just prohibited fireworks. And I think that's the intent here, is that with increased fire that we're seeing over the years now, this year's going to be a pretty, assume a drought year again, just prohibiting those fireworks in areas close to our fires and established areas where we're putting money into them would just be keeping them away.
Follow-up question. I know what we tend to classify the tribal member home site leases around the lake as recreational leases. Would that then include them?
Our intent was not to be people's yards or homes. That was their thing, and that's why we were trying to put recreation. But if there is some designation for home sites along the lake having the term recreation with them, then we could add a language that says excluding personal tribal lease areas. I'm not sure the correct language. We were gonna send this one to the lands department to see too if they had some updates. I think Mark was out, so I didn't send it yesterday. So designated tribal member home sites. Lakefront.
If you accept leases, I could imagine people going out on range leases and saying, well, it's allowed. So be careful there.
I searched the land ordinance for some keywords, but I didn't see it in there. I'll talk with them directly and see if somebody has guidance too.
Other thoughts or discussion about all of the changes that the Whispers brought into us today? Martin?
Just that we need to get our land ordinance finalized.
I thought I had the final draft that had a signature on it. No, maybe not.
Go ahead, Len.
Whisper on page 41, in regards to the dispositions of human remains. I would like to just take the bottom clause out of there where they're giving them the option to come to council for consideration. I think we ought to be stern on this, because if we start allowing them to do that and then for whatever reason, council approved one, we do for one, we got to do it for all, you know? And I don't think it would be good if council got put in that situation.
Well, are we in a consensus that allows Whisper to take these to public. Okay, we'll do that. Motion by Carol. Second? Tom? All in favor? There you go, Whisper, unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Break. We're ahead of schedule pretty well.
Our water
Let's-
did freeze up at our office, but it didn't break when it unthawed.
5 minutes, break,
Till 10:30?
10:30. 10:30. 10:45. So it looks at, I guess it's 10:30. We'll call it back to order and, Dan's up. Find out what legal has for us for today. Do we need a good executive, Dan? Yeah. Regular. Is that the motion? Motion by, Martin to accept, the polling that we did for, Mr. Dan Tenenbaum for the position of, second by Jimmy, position of the appellate court justice. All in favor? It's at 8-4 and 1 abstention. Len abstains.
And Lisa would like to go in executive for her issue today.
We'll go out of regular back into executive then.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just in case. Into no, that's okay. Basically just came in today to kind of let you know that we're working on a closure policy. It's in the very draft stages. So I had, it get sent out to everyone just to let you know that we're kind of trying to put in some kind of mechanism so that we have a way to initiate it, because right now it's kind of hit and miss on how we do things, as I'm sure the chairmans have experienced in the past. So we're kind of trying to streamline things a little bit. As you can see, it's in draft. These are the comments that I just got from Jordan today. We're basically just trying to address if there's an outage due to weather, if there's something that happens because the city declared something, if there's a railroad emergency, a fire, electrical issue, we have a water or sewer problem, just kind of trying to have some policy that we can have in place that'll initiate and help managers address the situation with their staff and how to address it and how we address it through the management level. It basically is outlining that everything goes through the chairperson. The reason that is done is because our ordinance only allows the chairperson to authorize other leave. So if we can somehow in the policy have it set up so that if this is approved, the chairman agrees under these circumstances that he would approve other leave, then we would be able to implement not having to go to the chair every time there's an incident. As far as the Unified Command Center representatives, the reason that those were put in there is we oftentimes have situations that occur maybe in one town and not others. Like Polson might have an emergency situation, but Arley and Mission are fine. So it's a weather event that wouldn't relate to every town. It would give us a check and balance in each of those towns, hopefully, to say, here's our representative from Arley that would be able to confirm, yeah, the roads are fine or not. Or if that's not something we want to go that route, maybe we have Law and Order confirm. But like I said, this is in the very infancy stages. So I wanted to bring it to council to get comment and see if we're even on the right track, if it's something that you're interested in pursuing before we put a bunch of time into it, and make sure that you have your input and your experiences to help us have this be a policy that's good. So that's why I brought it today, was just to see if you would please take a look at it. If you've already had a chance, let me know your comments. If you have any, got my phone ready to write notes.
Any thoughts on the policy? Have you had a chance to actually read through it? I read it all. Yeah, go to Ed, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for putting, pen to paper and having some thought with this. And reflecting back, the other year, I would like to have some consideration for those emergency hire folks. Because, you know, they don't qualify for this leave as this is written.
Okay.
So, you know, and a lot of times they're just, one of those things, we're picking them up quickly, and so they don't get any of those, they're exempt. And so typically, they're critical staff for us, even though they may be at the lowest pay scale, but I hate to think that we are gonna pay other people and not pay them during an emergency.
Okay,
So that would be one thing that I would try to include them.
okay.
Well, I thought we were supposed to take care of that in the personnel ordinance, but apparently not.
You're kidding me.
Well, because it's in this draft.
This was drafted like way back before then. I started this like in July or something. It was before that. So, yeah, I've got a note to make sure that we add all employees.
Okay.
No exemption.
The other thing is, what I really like is having a process, a stepwise decision-making process like you're trying to put together that really makes it automatic, you know? There's no, it's like, hey, you know what? The highway patrol and our tribal law enforcement say the roads are impassable. Well, okay, automatic, you know, just shut down. So there's those critical things when you have those disaster emergency entities out there. I think that's just automatic to me. The thing it would be is that when do you return to work and how that process and how that happens. I really like that. One thing that you put in here when people come to work is lighting. You focused a lot on lighting, and really it's in situation where it's 38 below zero, it's heating is more critical than light. So
There were some electrical outages that we had that people were still able to kind of work from their desk and do some filing and things like that. So it kind of was to try to address those types of situations, as well as if there's other work that you would be able to do during those under 4-hour periods, then that would be.
yeah, as long as you can keep
address
the
it.
workage above 55 degrees, you're probably
Definitely.
okay, right? Yeah. But if you're not, then that's the same as, you know, not usable workspace. The other thing in the executive leadership team, I do not see D, the Travel Disaster Emergency Service Coordinator.
Dale Nelson.
Who?
Dale Nelson.
Who?
Get your point.
So if you're gonna list it, let's make that a meaningful position, or let's do away with it. So it's not a meaningful position. It hasn't been for quite some
During the
time.
pandemic, that was about the only time that we had his involvement with any type
Yeah.
of closure.
Yeah,
Well, it doesn't have a vehicle no more.
it was a brand
Yeah,
new
I
vehicle.
saw it. Crunch.
He's real proud. He was really happy with that.
Yeah, I come over to Pablo Pass and first thing I saw, a Flathead Nation disaster emergency vehicle all smucked out in the front.
So we either need to remove him or kind of bring him into the fold a little more with our processes.
Well, I've made some strong recommendations for this position.
Okay.
That it could be a training position, it could be, the duties could be expanded to make it more usable, but it's like the Maytag man, and, just not I mean, my observation has been, it's been a wasted salary. And, that's just me, and I don't know, somebody else has a different opinion, let's hear it, but it's me. Okay.
It would be appropriate for somebody that is actually active in the position to be on this list though, so.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So as a policy, it needs to be included. Carol, you had your hand up.
I like the way it works now. I don't know if it's necessary to have all this stuff written down. I mean, I think you make the call and you know either the schools or the law enforcement. And I think we start putting too much in writing and it just, I don't know, just kind of pisses people off. I don't, that's my thought.
And that's why I'm here, to make sure that we're not going down a rabbit hole we don't need to go down too.
Other thoughts?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Jane.
you know, I haven't, when the Jolene Jacobson was that person back when. I don't know what the current occupant is doing or not doing, but I know she was very active. I mean,
There was a person.
And Fred
she
Steele.
was doing a lot.
Mhm.
And I know she was always at different trainings and, you know, all over coordinating with different agencies. So I don't know what, besides the personality changing, I don't, I'm out of the loop now, but I just know when I was chairing on council, she was really involved with things, so.
Well, where do we go from here? Danielle?
In response to Carol, I think we actually maybe need something in writing, especially when we're trying to approve payroll down here on this bottom part where it talks about how much they get paid, their paid time off. That part of it, at least, I believe needs to be there so we know how to pay the associates.
I don't know if that gives you a lot of direction, Lisa, but a little bit.
Does, if you guys are in consensus, then we can just continue with the drafts, and if you guys would like to provide comment, that would be appreciated. Any comments, or even like Jordan did, he just put comments to the side or whatever. But if it's not something you're interested in, then I don't want to take up any more time into this.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, what I really like in a decision flow chart or matrix is a yes, a go, no go, you know, so here's the question. If you can answer yes to this, then there it is.
Okay.
And it's just that simple flow chart that says yes or no. And if it's a no, then, you know, what's the answer? What's the consideration? But, and you can keep it really simple. I mean, I don't want to make it confusing or
Okay.
it shouldn't be that way, for something like this, but I really like those, or typically that's the kind of stuff you do for incident command systems. And that's what I would recommend.
Okay.
So maybe, you know, a diagram, a flow chart that just kind of easily
Okay.
spells it out on one sheet. Maybe that's all we need.
Okay.
If it's not a yes, then you're not going to do an emergency closure, or you're not going to do this. It just gets to that point where an action needs to be taken.
Okay.
If I would like to read the position description for the emergency person, but what's the title? Emergency something. Could I be able to read that position description? I mean, if we have somebody in it, I'd like to know read what. Yeah, or what they're supposed to be doing at least.
Or figuring out who supervises them.
Really.
I don't have a copy,
That's
but I
not
could probably get one.
sarcastic, right?
No,
That
it's
we
not.
were being serious.
Well, it kind of was kind of a floater, and then also I think the last person he ended up under was First Street Department head. But I don't know. Jordan, you know who supervises them? Jordan. Yeah. Lisa, do you supervise them?
No. Dale Nelson.
Dale Nelson.
Tony Inkashola doesn't want to, but that's.
See, there's the problem. And that's the way it was in
And
Forest.
he's
He
out
didn't
at
want it.
fire control. Did you want Tony in here?
Well, I mean, that's the issue. That this person should be on top of this. And actually, that should be the person who wrote this.
Yeah.
And they're not even in the room.
That was just given to him at one point in time, that they just moved him out there.
Yeah, I know.
And then somebody just said, well, you need to keep an eye on him.
But that disaster emergency person, that coordinator should be the one that wrote this document.
Wasn't him.
No, it wasn't him.
And we do have that person, to my understanding from talking with Patricia Hilbler, was that's who the state contacts, or that's who the county contacts if there's any type of emergency. That's their contact, and that's who they discuss anything that we would send out would be through Dale. So it is a very important position.
Yeah, Jolene was excellent at this position. The current coordinator for Lake County is excellent at his position, Mr. Clary. And that's all I'm asking for is we have the position. It should be someone that does it very well, because this is really an important position. And to have someone hide out during an event, not even leave their house, that's just amazing to me. He sat in his house and watched the whole Boulder fire from his house.
I was gonna say, and I think on that, it was Rick and Jordan that done most of the stuff regarding those fires. Wasn't Dale, so. When we had to give out money or send money to people, it was from Rick and Jordan.
The
that
classic
did it.
example, I watched Len do that coordinator job. I don't know how many. It wasn't for Len Two Teeth, a lot of people would have had shelter, That's just amazing to me.
Well, that's definitely an issue besides the policy we're looking at today, so. I do think we do need to have something of a policy in place. I like Tom's idea of the diagram, and then definitely some statement about what kind of leave happens, how, and how they're paid. Definitely those sorts of things. And then the return after.
Okay.
Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lisa, I apologize. I had to leave. My dad's got an appointment. So I think just kind of explaining the way it worked, right? Like last week with the closure. On Wednesday, there was a text thread that was sent out with the officers and Jordan and Rick. And we all kind of weighed in on it, based on conditions. Mike was chiming in from DC, asking good questions. And that matrix, I think, was pretty simple. Like Tom said, just a quick little flow chart. The payroll rules have their own rules. Everyone should be following those. I don't think we need to re-spell out those type of things. We've been dealing with this without a policy for quite a while, so let's just bring the people in that do it and get their input real quick and get it knocked out before our next emergency that we have. And if we could get Mark Clary to maybe call the chairman, or I know I can get a hold of him as well, but it'd be nice for us to hear from them. The other day we shut it down based on Lake County and their recommendation, but I don't know where they're getting their information from and why we're listening to Lake County for our decision making is beyond me. So other than that, yeah, definitely we need this something in writing, but let's not reinvent the wheel.
Thanks, Martin.
Your thoughts? Well, thank you, Lisa.
Okay. Not sure if you wanted or had time for an update on kind of where we are with the HR consultant as far as dealing with personnel reorganization and training and things like that. If you're interested, I can kind of try to do a brief summary, or if you'd like me to schedule time to come back, I'm willing to do that as well, whatever works for you.
Tom has a question, and we can think about that.
Just one thing, Lisa and Jordan. So Dale is retiring. That's if he's got 1 foot out the door. So I think it's really a really good time to revisit that position description and see if there could be some tweaking or some missing elements that we want for safety training or some of those things that disaster emergency service coordinator could help facilitate. And that would be great to review that PD for that. So when you fill it with somebody that's got some energy, then we would have more coverage. So I just wanted to bring that up. So Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Lisa, I think we do have somebody scheduled at 2 o'clock, and so
Okay.
we'll make another time.
Okay, we'll try to come in here real quick.
Yeah.
In the near future, because we're getting ready to start rolling out some of the strategic planning, and so I kind of wanted to give you, you were hoping to see a timeline and the different, objectives that we have, so I just want to make sure that you're aware before we start rolling things out. One thing I do want to touch on is because everything's flowing through the personnel department, we're going to kind of adjust their availability, so the mornings on Wednesday, for the first 2 hours, they're gonna be working on a lot of this stuff to help us get through this process. And then one day a month, they're gonna, I think it's the second Wednesday, they're not gonna be very available. They're gonna be working on this and playing catch up for the 2 hours that they were devoting to this reorg. So just to give you a heads up that there'll be some type of notification going out, but I wanted to make you aware of it before any questions came your way, but that's what it's geared towards, is to start moving us into that HR direction and allow them to have some free time to do that without interruption.
Any questions, Lisa? Thank you, Lisa.
Right, thank you.
And Alyssa's on if you're ready.
Well, welcome, Alyssa. You're on our next item in our schedule, so welcome and let us know what we're talking about today.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm going to pass it to our Executive Director, Ronnie Joe, to talk about some updates to voter registration.
Yeah, thank you for meeting with us. My name is Ronnie Joharson. I'm the Executive Director of Western Native Voice. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just have a few updates on the voter registration system that we have here in Montana, and then also on the voter registration form itself. So the changes to the voter registration system is that in the past, the old system was able to accept, I guess, descriptive addresses. So for example, you can have like the third White House on River Road to the left, that's where I live. Or like for our houseless people, like I spend majority of my time here. Really descriptive. So the new system's no longer accepting that. What they are accepting are 911 addresses and coordinates. So we are working with the Secretary of State's office on the form. One of my asks to them was two changes. First, on the phone number, instead of it saying optional, it's saying recommended, because in the field, when people say it's optional, they're going to skip over that part because they're already filling out this long form. And so we just asked for them to say recommended. And then also I am asking on the physical address part of the form where the system kind of changed it a little bit to actually list out what physical addresses are accepted, which are the 911 or coordinates. So we are working on this new change now. We came up with a new system, new mapping system, and required a file from I think it's called the DOT, the Department of Transportation. So most of that file does have all the 911 addresses on there, so that won't affect our work, but we just wanted to give you a quick update about what's happening. There was also a meeting requested from some of the other tribes, just to kind of get a few representatives together via Western Native Voice to get on the same page on election and then the upcoming legislative session. And then the American Indian Caucus will be kind of updating about what's going on the ground there. So I know that Alyssa did send out that invitation to the council. If you haven't received it, please let us know and we can resend that. But yeah, those are our updates. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ronnie Joe. Any thoughts or questions about the changes that are happening in registration and I guess addresses kind of things? Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. We had our board meeting in Great Falls this last weekend, Ronnie Joe and the different board members, Pat Smith as well, chairman of the board. And we had the great pleasure of being in the Little Shell Tribes office building there. We have our satellite office there and is in the Little Shell Tribal building there. And a beautiful office that we just, when did we get that? Within the last, how many months, Ronnie Joe?
I can say like 5 months. Yeah.
5 months, yeah. So we've been in there for 5 months. We just got our Western Native Voice Field person hired on about the same time, right? 5 months ago. So it was really, really a nice thing to see my late grandpa's tribal office. He was a member of the Little Shell, and then my niece, she's enrolled there as well. But just to remind the council, Western Native Voice is definitely committed to getting the Native vote out and registration across the state, not just the reservations. And we have a big focus in the Billings area and Great Falls in particular, because that's one of the larger areas with our urban Native population. So we're definitely hitting the ground running. We do. I know Western Native Voice has looking for people to work in the field offices part-time. So I've put that on my Facebook, but you can find it on I know our Western Native Voice website as well. I'm on the board and I serve as a treasurer of that board as well. But Ronnie Joe's been our executive director for 3 years. Yeah, so she's brought us leaps and bounds from where we were. When I got on the board, we were in a broken down church with a broken elevator and buildings, and now we have our own very nice building, and it's just exciting to see what we're getting done. So thank you, Ronnie Joe and Lisa.
Thank you, James. Carol.
Yeah, Ronnie Joe, I have plans to do a fundraiser for House District 91, Shelley Fion. And we're gonna do it on March 6th. I don't know if you make contributions to that, but we're gonna do a feed and donations and things like that. So just thought I would let you know that there's some people doing some things for candidates.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's really awesome that you're doing that for her. And that reminds me, we are having a commemoration on June 2nd. It is a Sunday. We are having it here in Billings, but it's the 100th year anniversary for the Indian Citizenship Act. So this year is our 100th anniversary for being U.S. citizens. And we're going to do like a parade. We're going to do like a kind of cultural showcase. I'm kind of leaving that open to each tribe. You will be receiving invitations and all that. So hopefully, some tribal citizens are interested in participating in that. And then we'll also be showing our film that we partnered with the ACLU with our lawsuits that we're still waiting to hear back on. So we'll extend that invitation to you guys all, and I'll mail them. Hopefully they're a little nice so we can get everybody, and we'll share it in your community and do target ads and all that too.
Any other questions, folks? Well, it looks like we've run out of questions for you, Ronnie Joe and Alyssa and James. So thank you for the update.
Thank you, guys.
I think that's it.
Okay. And if you haven't received it, here's the flyer for I don't know if you can see it through my blur, but just for my event in February. It's the 26th and 27th of February in Bozeman. And it's just to update on get out the vote efforts and everything like that. So we have funds for up to 5 members of the tribe to attend. Yeah, reach out to me and we hope to have you there. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, I've asked to be included, if that's all right with council, on that list for that event. What was the date again on that, Alyssa?
So it's Monday, February 26th through Tuesday, the 27th. We'll end at noon on the 27th to allow for a travel back.
Good. Yeah,
And
so we've got room for what, 4 more representatives from Flathead?
yeah,
Yeah,
we'll reimburse mileage, and then we have rooms picked out at the Kimpton Armory downtown.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, and we'll be taking you guys to the hot springs. So whoever is going to come, there's a hot springs option as well.
Well, Happy New Year, and you guys have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready to motion on boards and committees? I sent you a list of it in your email, Mike. It's just the 13 resolutions that need to be motioned and 13 of them. I can put them on the screen if you want me to.
Yeah, that'd be good, so I could see him.
Yeah, if you would, and I'm wondering if we can just do them all. Is there any objection to basically having a vote for all of them, since we've already went through them all? I gotta get my screen set right so I can see. I can get my glasses out. Okay, first resolution, governing body of the Confederated CSKT Tribes is the resolution appointing delegates to the National Congress of American Indians, and I believe that's Jennifer Finley as delegate and
It's
Tom
on your
McCollum.
screen, Mike.
What's that?
It's on your screen. I put it up.
Oh, well, that's what I'm reading.
Oh,
I still need my glasses. I would entertain a motion for
Motion.
NCAI.
I'll make the motion for the resolution appointing the representatives for NCAI.
Second. Second by Bing. All in favor? Everybody? Martin, too. On to the second one. Second one's the representatives to Tribal Self-Governance Advisory Committee.
I'll make a motion to appoint.
That's myself and you, James. And Ruthie, yep. Second by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous. Delegates to the National Indian Gaming Association. We got Bing Matt, Jim Malatar, and Martin Charlo.
Motion.
Motion by James. Second by Danielle. All in favor? Unanimous. Got a problem?
gonna add Tom McDonald to this one
Oh, okay.
as an alternate.
Native American Fish and Wildlife Society. Got Bing Matt, Martin Charlo, and Tom McDonald. Motion by Tom. Second by Martin. All in favor?
Yeah.
Unanimous. Resolution to appoint representatives to Native American Fish and Wildlife Society. We have Bing, Matt, and Martin. Motion,
Motion.
James. Second, Bing. All in favor? We're good, unanimous. Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Council. Motion by, Tom. Second by James. All in favor? Unanimous. Executive Council of the Affiliated Tribes of Northwest Indians. Motion by Tom. Second by Jimmy. All in favor? Unanimous. Resolution to appoint representatives to the Intertribal Agriculture Council. Motion by Tom. Second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous. Resolution delegates to Intertribal Timber Council. Motion by Tom. Second by Danielle. All in favor? Unanimous. Resolution Council of the Confederated Ameren, Selling Ameren. Motion by Tom. Second by Martin. Second by Martin. All in favor? Good. Intertribal Bison Council. Motion by Tom. Second by Bing. All in favor? Cool. Unanimous. Montana Advisory Council on Indian Education. Motion by Tom. Carol second. All in favor? Unanimous. Cool. National Indian Education Association. Motion by Carol. Second by Bing. All in favor? Thank you all. Unanimous. Didn't see that. It wasn't on the list that we had. Yeah, we are.
I don't
We
know.
are.
Yeah.
Well, mark that
I'm
down.
not, I'll look it up real quick, see if I can find something here.
I haven't heard of us having a delegate to anything like that in a while.
Yeah, I know I was on it. Okay, Coalition of Large Tribes. Gotta change your name like the other one did. Yeah, they have a coalition of large tribes and we're not on it, so. We used to be on it, but it was the Council of Large Land-Based Tribes 15 years ago. The members are Spokane, Shoshone Bannock, Cheyenne River, Navajo Nation, Rosebud Sioux, Oglala Sioux, Ute, Indian, Blackfeet Nation, Eastern Shoshone, Fort Belknap, Mandan, Hidatsa, Rickawa, Sisseton, Wapiton, so. Well, it's funny because, well, anyway, they have an application process here, so.
Will you send that to me and I'll get it ready?
Yeah,
for the
I'll
next
send it
council?
to you. Yep. Yeah, good catch, Carol, because I thought, yeah, they're still active, just a little different name.
What else? Don't know, police commission isn't one of ours, so I don't know that it would. I had another conference that folks might be interested in. The annual tribal enrollment conference was advertised here by Montana and Associates LLC out of Osceola, Wisconsin. March 8th, 19th, 20th, 21st in Honolulu, Hawaii. Aloha. Go ahead, Carol.
Wanted to say, it's starting to heat up on this enrollment issue, and I think we need to get ourselves prepared for whatever comes out of that, whether the council takes action or they do a petition or whatever. But I think we need to be prepared to educate our members on what's coming forward, if it passed or if it didn't. So I just think we need to be up to speed on and provide information.
Thing where you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At lunchtime, I was brought 3 letters from a representative from the iron workers. And the letters are to the Interior Secretary, Deb Holland. And what they're doing is they're requesting a renewal for grant fund for iron workers training and whatnot. And they want to see if they can get this back going again. They had it going before, but then but what happened was something happened and they had to drop it. But they want to get it up and running again. So I've got 3 letters here from Fort Peck, one for the Little Shell and one for the Nez Perce tribe supporting this letter to Deb Holland. And I'll go ahead and give you, Mike, you can go ahead and look at them and you can see if we can get a letter or some sort drafted up to support this.
Anything else? Tom?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to follow up on Carol's comment. I believe, we heard it at the quarterly also, that it would be timely probably for us to set up a subcommittee on enrollment and do some more research and alternatives. And as being prepared, it's either you lead, follow, or get out of the way. So I'd rather have the tribal council be the lead in enrollment discussion and thoughtfully consider all those alternatives that might be there in the face of a declining enrollment that we currently are facing right now. So I don't know how that takes shape, but certainly like to see that.
Thank you, Tom. I'm wondering, is there somebody on council that does not want to participate in that? That definitely could put together a subcommittee that would then educate the whole council on what all the options, all the possibilities, all the whatever. There's definitely a lot of background information on it, so and it'd be pretty. It's kind of interesting. And going anywhere or not, it can mix the waters pretty good sometimes. So think about it and let's bring that up next time and actually put together a group. Jennifer.
For Danielle and James, would Wednesday, January 31st be okay for your guys' photo shots, headshots? Unless you want to keep your same picture on the wall.
You're gonna be a model. You're gonna be a model. Time for you guys to go model.
You gotta go look that. That's a good picture you have. So we can do that one later in the afternoon or in the morning. Okay, so should we go for 3? 3? She's looking fresh right now, so she'll be okay at 3. Bring it with you.
Motion by Carol to adjourn. Anybody voting against it? We're adjourned.